Hi, welcome this evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. How many of you did your homework? I need to see your faces too. I'm a teacher, remember? So chime in. Let me see you. You want to know who you're going to be working with this season, right? So let's see each other. I mean, you did this for a whole year, right? So you're familiar. How many of you did your homework? Great. Annika, what was your homework?
My homework was the goalie questions. And I think we had to read the other stuff.
Okay, yes, the other stuff is good. Ed, what was your homework?
We had the reference sheet and then the minor penalty administration and
Okay.
the quiz on the goalies.
Okay, did you guys read in your manual the sections, I think it was 8, 9, and 10?
And that.
Did you read that just to get an overview of the rules? Yes, did we read it? It's okay if you didn't, but I just want you to be honest so I kind of know where we're at when we talk this evening. Did you read it? Yes or no? Thumbs up? Okay. Okay. And then I asked you to have handy at least, so if you don't have it printed, if you could pull up the rules reference sheet for tonight and have it just in the background. We're going to reference that in a little bit. And then also, as we go through, I'll tell you a little bit more about pulling up the goalie information. We're going to do breakout room and whatever. But we need to finish up on the game and timing procedures. We're going to kind of blow through that a little bit quickly because all of us are pretty familiar with lacrosse. So I think we can hit that kind of, at a high level and talk through it, and then move on to the major and minor fouls and two-person positioning, which is really the meat of what we need to get through as officials. Like last time I mentioned was a lot of business and that kind of thing. And then tonight is really getting into the kind of meat of what we want to be able to call on the field and to keep the game safe. Okay, so I'm going to do my screen share. If you could go ahead, I think it would be easiest for us to, if you could just type your name on the side, in the chat box so we can take attendance. And Linda's going to kind of monitor and Joe, the chat room. I'm going to kick us off with the rest of the section 3 on game and timing procedures. And then we'll talk about minor fouls and then major fouls and then two-person positioning, and that'll wrap us up for this evening. How many of you did your workbook assignment and looked through that attachment and kind of filled in where you could in what we did on the earlier sections? Thumbs up. Thumbs up, you did it. Here you looked at it. Here you don't know what I'm talking about. Let me see. Okay. Okay, so in that attachment, remember from for this session, I sent the workbook. So the workbook, again, I encourage you to print that. I know it's a little lengthy. So if you cannot print it, you can at least fill in like in a spiral or notebook, note paper or something like that, the answers as you kind of go through. Because remember, after you go through our classroom session, you have to go online through USA Lacrosse, and you have to do an online training as well. So that will only, tee you up to be well-versed in taking these further training sessions, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to kick us off with game and timing. Are there any questions before we get going? If you want to reach out loud, that's fine, just chime in. Otherwise, you can type it in the chat box and Linda and Joe will referee that. All right, give me just a moment, I'm going to screen share. Feel free to follow along in your workbook attachment. Okay, because that does coincide with everything, that we're moving through the entire classroom session courses. So go ahead, if you want to pull up the workbook and have it in the background, you can get to this section again, game and timing procedures, and pick up kind of where we're at, fill in where you need to keep going there, okay? Okay, this should be about where we left off last time. And again, just kind of some of the things on proper setup for the draws. So you want to make sure that the girls' feet are toeing the line. So for this particular slide, that's not emphasized here, but the girl with those black shoes needs to be toeing the line. The crosses are parallel in the same plane as that center line. about hip level. It needs to be comfortable for both players, so neither player gets an advantage. Everything that we're going to talk about this evening with rules and major and minor fouls is going to have to do with advantage. All right, so when there is one team or player getting advantage over the other, that's when we have a penalty or a foul. So even if you don't remember like the name of the foul right off or the signals and mechanics and those kind of things, I want you to think about, does she have an advantage? And if the answer is yes, then it's a call. Okay, so kind of simplify that for yourself as we get started. So again, the draw needs to be up. The first motion needs to be up. Crosses are held, again, parallel to that center line in the same plane. If you think about your geometry, I think we mentioned last time. No player may step on or over the restraining line before the official signals and audibly says possession. Players taking the draw are motionless except for their head. They can turn and watch the official if they choose, but every other part of their body needs to be motionless. So they need to get their stance set and everything else ahead of time. Linda, there's someone in the waiting room. If you could grab that, please. No players may step on or over the center circle as well as the restraining line. And then players may, though, reach with their stick to play the ball, just not their foot or any body can be on or over the line. We would set the draw normally in class, but you'll get that training, plenty of it when you do the in-person on the field coming up in a few weeks. For restarting play, remember you want to use your whistle. You see this official here, the mechanic is with your arm up. So when you start play, you'll give a visual arm signal with it above your head, as you see in this slide here. And then you'll blow your whistle and then relax your arm down. Okay, the player that's fouled is going to keep the ball. Or if she dropped it, it's going to go back to this player. And then the player that committed the foul will be directed either 4 meters away or 4 meters behind, depending on the type of foul that it is. And all other players now can move. Free movement, you know, is relatively new, last few years in our game, season or two. And then as long as they stay 4 meters away, then we do have free movement. So free positions, you'll see in your note FP, sometimes that represents free position. So the violation of any rule is going to be a foul, and we set it up using the terminology of free position. So the player committing the foul moves 4 meters either away or behind, again, depending on the foul. Minors are going to be just away. If you think about what the word minor means, it's just a misplay. Something could be with equipment, maybe they're creeping, some sort of delay. Not a dangerous foul, they're just moving away from the girl with the ball from committing that foul. If it's a major foul, then they have to actually move behind. Think about what the word major means, something that's dangerous, maybe a safety concern, and we're moving them behind. So it's a more severe penalty, if you will. So you'll see the FP here. No free position may be taken closer than 4 meters to the boundary. So if there's a foul that happens right on top of the boundary, we want to bring them in 4 meters and then set them up relative to their position where the foul occurred. Also, no free position may be closer than 8 meters to the goal circle. So similarly, if something happens inside that kind of 8 meter and even to the back of the goal, you know, where we have that penalty zone area, we want to pull them out 8 meters away, relative, set them up as well, depending on major, minor. It could be at a dot, it could be at a hash mark. We'll get into some of those setups later. Self-start, also something relatively new the last few years, where the players can get the ball, they might be fouled, and if they don't drop the ball or anything, then they just play on, and the other girl is supposed to at least just move away from her, but she can self-start. There's a few technicalities around when you can and cannot that we'll go through as well. So you'll see the animation here. There's a foul. Referee will tweet. There's the setup, and then the other player just needs to be we'll say the player who committed the foul, and the player needs to be in a settled stance, all right, with the ball in the head of her cross, and then they can just take off. So the idea is she might get fouled, they just have to settle quickly and then go. But I mean, really settling is kind of, I mean, it's a judgment. I mean, these girls, we want to keep the game fluid, so we're not going to kind of harp on them. Have they really truly stopped and settled, or are they just, you know, kind of took a breath and then kept going, if you will. Questions so far? Okay, self-start, some criteria, what you're looking at here. So ball is outside the CSA. In order for a self-start to occur, okay, we want to make sure the ball is outside the critical scoring area. The game clock is running, okay, so there's a little bit of a rule change that we'll get to for 2022, but for instance, in the last 2 minutes of each half, when there's a stop clock on every whistle, which now it's only in the CSA for the new rule, we don't allow self-starts unless the clock is running. The ball must be 1.5 sticks lengths away from the spot of the foul. So if there's a foul that occurs and the ball goes errant, we want to make sure that the ball is still 1.5 sticks lengths away in order for them to pick up and go again. Otherwise, they're going to get an advantage potentially, and we don't want that. So we would just move them back to the spot of the foul, and then they can self-start from there. Again, in case the ball goes, shoots off, 10, 15 yards away, we want to make sure it comes back close to the spot of the foul before they self-start. No advantage we want to give them. So the offensive player initiating the self-start may pick up the ball, bring it back to the spot of the foul and self-start. So we would just kind of give her a couple seconds to do that. A teammate may also pick up the ball and return it to the ball carrier, so she may self-start. And again, that's legal because we have free movement as well. Now they need to still be 4 meters away when the self-start starts, but the teammate can, help her other player do that. So for the fouled player, restart play immediately. So if you're awarded the ball, you can boom, do your settled stance and go. You can wait for other players to go ahead and move 4 meters away. Ideally, that's what we want. And as officials, we also say that you need to move 4 meters. Or they can wait for the whistle technically, although, most of the players now at the high school level, for sure, they're used to this rule. At the youth level, which most of y'all, if not all of you, will be at least starting out at that level, you need to maybe direct them a little bit, like you can self-start, and go ahead and verbally tell them to go ahead. They might look to you on, some of those cues, can I self-start in this case or not? And you just need to be prepared to kind of help them learn that part of the rule as well. Play will commence or begin once the ball carrier steps or passes. Repeated self-starting beyond playing distance may result in a warning or delay of game. So just kind of keep the game fluid. Proactive officiating may prevent the need for whistles. So this particularly comes into play at the youth level when we kind of can verbally cue them so that we don't have to, stop the game down every single time there's been some sort of penalty or something like that. On the defensive side, the offender must initiate movement in order for the defender to go ahead and go with her. All right, the defenders cannot engage until play has actually started. Pivoting, rocking, cradling, pumping does not actually begin play. So just be careful with that. If that defender jumps early, we need to pull her back and start again. Okay, and again, this could result in delay of game if that defender keeps creeping up too soon before their player with the ball goes ahead and self-starts. So this part is important as well. A couple times when the self-start is not an option, when that game clock is stopped, so if we were in maybe an overtime period or if we were in the last 2 minutes, certain areas of the field there, the restraining line violation and offsides all the time is not a self-start situation. We always whistle on that one. Fouls in the CSA, we always whistle on those. Alternative possession, which you also may see as AP in your notes, we always whistle start there. Inadvertent would be a whistle that the referee called for some reason, so we don't want to allow a self-start in that case. And then anytime after a goal is scored, of course, we start with the redraw anyway, or a new draw rather, so not a self-start there. The foul for a self-start when it is not allowed, we use the false start. We'll get into false starts when we talk about fouls here in just a bit. Okay, again, be proactive as officials. Take the initiative. Alternative possession, so quickly here. Ball goes out of, into the goal of a non-player. Ball goes out of bounds on a shot or deflected shot, and 2 opposing players are equidistant. Okay, so we don't want to award anyone an advantage. We want to make sure we get that alternate possession, kind of like basketball, if you're familiar with it working in that game. If we can't determine where or to what team it goes, the ball lodges in clothing of a field player or maybe us, offsetting fouls, which is typically where we'll see it. Or if play is stopped and no player has possession, and we have that equidistant. Okay, so it's kind of intuitive here. Most of the time it ends up being for an offsetting foul. And we look to the table to see where the alternate possession cone or whatever token we're using to visually see that. The first AP is determined at the captain's meeting. So remember, the captain's meeting, you'll flip a coin, and whoever wins the coin toss gets to pick either first alternate possession or choice of end. And then alternate possession in the critical scoring area, above or below the goal line extended. If you look in the bottom right, that little animation that popped up there, GLE is goal line extended. It's awarded to the dot. Okay, no matter what, AP in that area is awarded to the dot. Okay, boundaries. So let's do a few animated slides here. Boundary self-starts. You see you've got your X's and O's. X has the ball. Ball goes out of bounds. It's on, the ball's off of the X player. So who's going to get it? Should be the O. And then you want to bring them in relative, make sure they're 4 meters, or excuse me, for boundary 2 meters inside the field. The team awarded possession can go get the ball. She comes in 2 meters relative to that same position, and play may not start with a pass when coming in from out of bounds. So they actually have to be on the field before they can pass. Otherwise, it's over.
And there's no stationary rocking or anything. The moment they come in, they just start.
That's true. That is true. They don't have to be settled really in this case.
But they do get 2 meters.
If the ball goes out of bounds as a result of a foul, the fouled player is positioned and then you come in fourth. Remember, on a foul, anytime it's 4 meters on the boundary or 4 meters away also, and then a boundary ball just with change of possession is only 2 meters coming in from that boundary. So there's the foul example, ball goes out of bounds with the foul. Player gets it 4 meters inside the boundary and 4 meters away with all the other players. Some more points on boundaries here. Ball is out of bounds when the player steps on or over the boundary line. Her body or cross touches the ground on or outside the line. A loose ball touches the ground on or outside the line. So for boundaries, it's the line on or outside. Okay, so some of the lines that we do, like the restraining line also, it's on or over.
But if the player's running down the field and she's in bounds, but her stick is out of bounds and the ball's out of bounds, that's still in bounds. It has to contact the ground to count.
That's a good point, yes. Okay, and you'll see that occasionally, especially with some of the maybe older teams or more skilled players because they know that rule. Okay, the team that last touches the ball will lose possession. It's a turnover on a shot or deflected shot. So if a shot is made and it maybe comes off the pipes or something like that, then that would be considered a deflection. And then it's the closest player gets the ball. And then play is restarted when the player awarded the ball runs onto the field. So again, you don't have to settle in this case. They just come on and go. Just they cannot pass from outside of the field. So the body or cross is closest. We do look at that. You'll see players extending. Okay, but it has to still be where the ball crosses the line. So it doesn't mean that their stick is closest to the line itself. It needs to be closest to where the ball went out of the field. And then the extension of their body can be the cross. You know, that does count as that, but it still has relative to where the ball actually went out, not just the line itself. So here's our little zebra stripes here. Believe you can, and you're halfway there. So we just finished halfway of the training. Like I said, this was just the end of what we did last time. Are there any questions on this section? Questions? Should be pretty familiar with most of you, I think, as players and the level of knowledge we have in the game. Joe, Linda, anything to add before we move on?
No, I mean, yeah.
Good?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we will move on to minor fouls. Okay, so minor foul penalty administration. So you all should have the minor foul penalty administration sheet. I think in your attachments, yes? Can someone make sure we have a yay or nay on that? Is that correct? In the attachments, you should have that. Minor foul penalty administration. So this is a reference sheet you can pull up as we go through this section.
We do.
Okay, normally we would, in a classroom setting, we would do some setups like on a table and whatnot, but you'll get still that experience when you get on the field live. So I'm going to run the PowerPoint and then my co-hosts are going to speak during the section. So again, questions before we get started. We're talking about minor fouls. You have the minor foul penalty admin activity pulled up. You also have your rules reference sheet, which has minor and major fouls on it. You can reference that as we go. Questions before we get started? Okay, let me pull it up for us. Okay, so minor fouls, goal circle fouls. Take it away.
Yeah, all right. So minor fouls, guys. All right, so minor fouls are those that do not involve the body contact or stick to body contact and essentially are more misplays, procedure errors, sorry, illegal uniforms and equipment, okay? So a body ball would be a misplay. Using any part of the body to deliberately impede or accelerate or change the direction of the ball. So kicking is legal. Of course, you can't shoot by kicking. Illegal is using a body to stop the ball from going out of bounds, catching the ball with your hand, stopping the ball with a touch trap as in soccer, and then stepping on the ball. This only is for field players. It is different for goalies inside the circle, okay? A cover would also be a misplace, guarding a grounded ball by covering it with their body, foot, or cross, preventing an opponent from playing the ball. So if there's an opponent within playing distance, it becomes illegal. If there's nobody around and able to play the ball, then it would be okay at that time. Let's see. An empty stick check.
Wait, pause. Linda, can you go over an example with like the goalie, if there's a cover there?
Yeah, so
It
absolutely.
would still count like as a cover could, I guess.
Yeah, so as long as, so the goalie can cover and rake the ball in as long as there's no one within playing distance. So if there's someone within playing distance, which it means, has the ability to pick up that ball within a stick's length, then it would be illegal at that time.
How would you administer that?
So it's a minor foul, so it would go to the 12.
But the goalie would not, even though the goalie did the cover.
Right, that's correct. The goalie can stay in her circle because she was in her circle. And again, it's a minor foul. So the team getting the ball will go to the 12. Nobody behind because it's a minor foul. If it was a field player who had covered, then it would be 4 meters from the direction they were coming. And then it would be indirect. And then, so indirect meaning they would have to pass the ball.
And we'll talk more about the penalty administration also today, but what
Or
we
is
don't
the
want you to do,
Yeah, sorry.
go ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead. It was just, the key one here was just in the particular instance, the goalie, we're going to go over administration, but the goalie does not get dragged out to the 8.
Correct. And also with covers in the youth game, particularly, you'll see a lot of covers, a lot of minor fouls in the youth game because the girls are learning their skills and whatnot. However, we don't want you to default just because a player covers the ball. We don't want you to default to, oh, it's an automatic foul or whistle. You want to make sure that it's truly gaining an advantage so other players can't play the ball on the cover. So that's kind of the higher level part of this foul that we want you to understand as well.
Usually see it, you know, if a ball is going out of bounds and one player is chasing it, she can't quite get to it, but she just drags it with her stick. It would clearly be a cover if anybody was around, but when nobody is, it was just a play to keep the ball from going out.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so empty stick check. So check and repeat opponent's cross when her cross is not in contact with the ball. Hitting a stick away, or if it was incidental, okay? Warding. All right, so warding is using that one arm, trying to push the defense off. So guarding the cross with an arm. If one hand is removed from the cross, it may be used to ward off an opponent with or without contact, and elbows may not protect the cross. We want to make sure we know the difference between warding and using the free arm to, you know, push off the opponent away from them. Sometimes you'll see someone use that free arm and they're just really using it for running momentum. So we want to make sure we know that difference as well. So warding is different from pushing. Pushing is going to be a major foul, which we will go into that later. All right. Misplays, play from out of bounds. So a player may not take an active part in the game when her feet are out of bounds or even on the line. So we see this a lot when there's an 8-meter shot and girls lined up on the inline to be closest to the ball. We got to remember if their feet are on that line or out of bounds, and they're no longer part of the play, right? So they're not the closest player. So it would be awarded to the person actually on the field. So unusual things. Very good. Handball, touch the ball with her hand. I saw one of those this weekend. So again, as I mentioned earlier, goalkeepers or deputies within the goal circle, they can use their hand or their body. So body balls and handballs don't apply to the goalie. But any field player, yes, that would apply to them. Improper use.
Sorry, pause. One thing about the handball, even with the goalie, like though she can touch it with her hand, she has to put it in her cross before she can toss it out of the goal circle. So handball just means touching the ball with her hand to play it, period, any player. But the goalkeeper, it's legal only to put it in their cross or pick it up, you know, and move it in the circle. But in order to actually pass legally with any player, including the goalkeeper, they have to use their cross to move the ball around. Just a technicality. I had that happen in a game and I had to call it back because she threw it out of the goal circle like she was a softball player. So it's still, that's not allowed. She has to put in her cross first.
All right. All right. And proper use of the cross, so can't throw it. So we see a lot of sticks being exchanged on the field. So you can't throw your stick at the other player. You got to make sure you hand it off or take part of the game without it. Okay. Or for that, your goggles or your mouth guard. Okay. Squeeze the head of the cross. So you can't use your hand or the body to keep the ball in the cross. Any questions so far? No? Okay, cool. All right, so procedural errors. Delay of the game. So failure to stand when a player is required to stand. So those would be like whistle starts, excluding false start penalty for an illegal self-start, failure to move 4 meters away on a free position, repeated self-starts from beyond the playing distance or when self-starts are not allowed. Any type of behavior which in the official's opinion amounts to delay, all right? All right, so on the delay of games, the first violation is going to be green card to the defending team. It is change of possession if applicable. And the second violation would be green yellow. So you would hold up the green card and then your yellow to the defending player. At that time, since it is green yellow, it would be a 2-minute penalty, and it doesn't count to the team card count. And we'll talk about that later. And then subsequent foul violations would then be just a straight yellow for misconduct, and then it would be another 2 penalty at that point. Then it would count towards the team card counts because it was just a straight yellow.
And the first violation's a minor, the second and third and second and subsequent are all majors, correct?
Correct, because they're serving the 2-minute penalty. All right. Early entry on the
Sorry,
draw.
I just wanted to pause on something else. So the first violation, just a little bit of verbiage here, goes to the team, but then the second violation and subsequent goes to the player themselves. So just kind of keep that in mind, because the green card can just be something you've been noticing, like creeping a lot in general. It goes to team blue. But then the next violation, you would be like, okay, team blue number 5, you creeped. There's your second violation, delay of game. So just something to kind of keep in mind on that specificity here on the verbiage.
All right, thank you. All right, so some procedural errors would be early entry on the draw. So early entry on the draw, meaning the players on the restraining line come over early. Anybody on the circle enters the circle early as well. And that again is before possession is called or before the whistle is blown. Or enter the field after the official's hand is on the stick for the draw. So as officials, the official who's starting the draw will look to their partner to make sure everything's cleared, meaning there's no kids in the sub box looking to come in. And then once the official's hands are on the sticks, nobody can enter the field. Okay. Early draw or early entry on the draw. So step into the center circle or legally crossing the restraint line. Oh, sorry, I'm repeating myself here. Nope, go back, please. Early entry on draw penalty administration, please. There we go. All right. So the possession is awarded to the opponent to the nearest of the spot of the ball. So wherever the ball is when the whistle is blown, that's the opponent is taking the ball at that point, right? They don't have to move back to the center or anything like that. And then the defending player will stand 4 meters away. They don't have to go behind. It is away since it's a minor foul, but they're going away towards the goal. They are defending, okay? And the ball carrier may self-start. Anything to add to that, Joe or Kendra?
So if say the ball is 30 yards away from where the offender is, you're not physically moving the offender to the spot of the ball. It's really the closest offender or the closest person on the offending team who's going to get positioned.
Correct. Closest person will get the ball.
Yeah, and the closest defender will be positioned.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry.
You'll see on this slide right here, the person has a foot over the restraining line trying to get the ball. So that is illegal. Now you can still reach over with your stick and ground it as long as your foot does not come across that line or on the line. All right, improper equipment. All right, so take part in the game if she is wearing jewelry or failure to properly wear a mouthpiece. So jewelry meaning, so this slide is a little bit outdated because those little hairbands are now okay. But we still want to make sure we have the earrings, the watches, the necklace, the nose rings all off, okay? And then,
Yeah, the hairband was just this new year. I mean, it like just changed.
You know,
Yeah.
Just,
It's
So
gonna be a
outdated.
22 thing, yes.
so the hardest part, and you'll see it at the junior level, is earrings. Because a lot of times they just got their ears pierced and they've taped them over with Band-Aids. And the rule says, you can't, taping them over does not solve the problem. So it's unfortunate, and a couple of third and fourth graders are not going to play the game if they have their earrings or their trainers in. So just, that's something you will see on a jewelry violation. And hopefully
gotta
you'll
be-
see.
Yeah, you got to be tough, guys. It's a hard sell, but we have to be consistent because we're all on the same team as officials, remember? Now, I know that other sports like soccer, for instance, they do allow you to Band-Aid it. So some of the girls may not really understand this rule, but it's up to their coaches and their other, team administrators to make sure that that rule is relayed on. Okay. And so it's not your fault. You just gotta, you just call the roll. It's in the rule book. If you have to reference that, you can always go back to that.
It's a hard one to call, and usually girl bursts into tears. It's not fun.
all right, so yeah, so we should be checking at stick check full jewelry. That is part of our job. You're checking the stick, looking for jewelry, making sure you're letting them know to take it off. The mouth guard too, making sure that they have that it's not clear or white or have teeth marks on it. So again, making sure they're wearing it properly, meaning it's fully in their mouth, not hanging out or pushed out. You can give them a warning if they're consistently doing it. Then you can consider a delay of game and turn over the ball if needed. All right. Failure to properly wear your eye protection or goggles, and even if you're wearing a helmet, making sure that it is strapped correctly. And then take part of the game if your uniform does not meet specifications. So if there is an improper uniform, let's say we noticed it at the beginning, then it is just, there is a minor foul at the beginning of the game. They don't take the draw. It would be a free position to the team with the legal uniform at the draw line to start the game instead of a draw. And it's a one-time foul, okay? Sometimes a team may let the organization know ahead of time that they have uniform issues. Sometimes we'll allow that waiver or whatever may be the case, but we would always let y'all know in advance if there's a team that we already know that there is a uniform issue and that we have allowed it for this season or whatever the case may be. And those are very rare. We haven't had them in a long time, and you're not out there really to be the uniform police and making sure that the numbers are the correct size and that the band on the side is the correct width. That's, but if you see one that is completely off from all the other ones, then, we'll do that. And at the youth level, they're just getting started. They're just, they may not all have the same uniform. So we may not penalize that at the first and second grade level.
Yeah, the reality is we just want the girls to be able to play the game, right? So we don't want to, keep them from having a good time, getting out there playing lacrosse. I mean, we don't want to do that. The biggest thing also for us probably on uniforms is just to make sure that we're able to determine the home versus away. We need a little color contrast or a little something that, even if they don't have a full uniform, oftentimes the coaches will have pennies or something they can at least throw on, to give us a little color differentiation so we can call it safely when we get into kind of the areas down around the goal and such. But yeah, like she said, definitely don't want to be like the uniform police and try to keep them from playing the game. That's not necessarily our goal either.
Correct. thank you. So at the high school level now, they should all be they should all have the same uniform, okay? All right, so illegal cross, play with a cross that does not meet specifications, so pockets too deep, or strung illegally. And again, at the if we see something, we want to give them the opportunity to try to fix that stick. If it's not something that's able to be fixed before the start of the game, then we want to ensure that the stick goes to the table and stays at the table. Now the coaches may fix the stick at the table once game started, but it cannot be rechecked until halftime. All right, improper equipment. A goal will not count if it is scored with a cross that does not meet the field cross specifications. If the player adjusts the strings or thongs of her cross after an official inspection of her cross has been requested during the game. So that's a big one. If a coach or a player from the other team asks to do a stick check on a player who just scored, and that player touches their strings or of any sort at that time, then it would be a no goal. Okay, so it's very important that if it's asked for, we say, hey, number 5, drop your stick, so that they don't have an opportunity to pull the strings. Do you have anything else to add to that, Joe or Kendra?
You won't see it too often, that particularly at the junior levels, you're not going to see a request to look at the cross. It's a fairly rare one from where you.
Higher level games, for sure you would see it, but
Right.
not so much where you guys would start.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to hand it over to Joe.
Well, so let's do a couple of signals. There are
Let me take
three.
off screen share quickly here. Okay.
So there are 3. So a couple of minors we just talked about. We had covering, empty stick check, and warding. Anybody can show me any of these signals? Anika, you want to try it? I see you raise your hand. It looked like it. Okay. So for which?
Cover.
Yeah, so cover is you cover it, you hold it. That's absolutely correct. Anybody else want to try empty stick or warding? Warding is the signal's very easy because it looks a lot like the penalty. Anybody? Ed? I
That
see.
was good. Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, so warding for, yeah. And again, a minor. And as Linda said, be careful, it's certainly different than a push. Okay, that leaves us empty stick check. Anybody?
Oh, Ben has it. Ben, would you do that one more time? Good. And a lot of times we'll pump it like maybe 1 or 2 just to show it's not just a cover, right? But they have a little tap, tap, something like that. Okay. But yes, very good.
Tap tap is good, but remember, people are going to see this signal are 30 to 50 yards away from you. So it's always good to make your signals big.
Yeah. And almost more importantly is the direction that the ball is going. So you really would do your direction first, tap, tap, boom. I mean, it is fast. And again, the coaches aren't really worried as much sometimes on what the call is, because they may know, but rather who's getting the ball so I can make my next move, right, as a coach. So you do want to still do the signal because your teammate is also looking to see, okay, we're going this direction, with a minor foul, an empty versus a major, something like that. But just another highlight here, all these minor fouls that we've talked about, remember they are specifically just misplays on the ball, and even the warding of the group of that may seem like the most, maybe kind of like a contact. It's not. It's really just to kind of shield their body against the other player. So still not a dangerous safety concern, therefore only a minor. Ed, did you have a question?
Yeah, so when you're pointing, are you pointing in the direction of the team that's getting the foul or the direction of the ball is going to go in?
Yes, in our sport, it's where the ball is going. So different than like football, I guess, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, so wherever the ball is headed, you're almost like pointing that way. Not literally, your hand is just straight, but yes, where the ball is going is where you direct. Any other questions here? There might be a question in the chat box. If Joe or Linda can kind of hit that.
There's nothing in it.
Is there anything for the group there? Okay.
Just, we had some additions, so if
Okay,
whoever's
great.
keeping attendance.
I think Joe next is a
Yeah.
couple more minors.
Yeah.
And then let me just flip some. There's some setups that we're going to get to in this next section. Okay, so are we ready to jump back on the PowerPoint?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll race through these. Okay. Okay. Drag it over, sorry. All right, so additional minor fouls we're going to talk about. Illegal reentry. You can't run out of bounds and re-enter to a more advantageous position. Girls running down the sideline, you can't run outside the field and run back in front of her. You have to stay on the field. So that would be illegal reentry. Illegal stick request. So coaches get 2. If they ask for a third, that would be a violation. Illegal substitution. Did they substitute when they shouldn't have? For example, hands are on the stick. Technically, there shouldn't be any substitution, but if a coach goes in and tries to substitute, that would technically be an illegal substitution. Or if the player runs on not from the sub box, that would be another example. So just be alert to that. And then a legal timeout, you only get 2 in a game. And so if they try to take a third, that would also be a minor foul. Again, not dangerous or procedural, but a foul. Next. Okay, so you've called the foul. Now what? So if it's outside the CSA, remember last time, that's outside the 12-meter all the way down to the end line. The penalty goes where the foul occurred. So free position, spotted a foul. And the offender, because this is a minor, is 4 meters away, not behind, but in the direction from which she approached. And then everybody else has to be 4 meters away, and self-start is allowed, except in the case where, well, it's outside the CSA, so self-start is allowed. The only other time you might not have a self-start is if there's a minor penalty and somebody calls a timeout, and then you restart play, it'd be a minor foul, but because you are starting the stop clock, it would be a whistle start. Next. So we talked about outside the CA, this is inside the CSA. So free position to the attack. So if it's on the defender, free position to the attack player on the 12 meter, on the 12 meter fan, nearest to where the spot of the foul is. So just draw a line from where the foul occurred, the closest, the shortest line to the 12 meter is where the foul will be positioned. And again, the offender is not necessarily behind, she would be in the direction from which she approached. Usually, but not always, it's on the 8 meter arc in front of the player, and all other players are 4 meters away. Now, the thing about a minor foul at the CSA, it is indirect. They either have to pass, they have to pass before they can, they can run or pass to start, but they cannot shoot directly on goal. And again, this is a whistle restart because it's inside the CSA. Next.
Hey, sorry, real quick. I know we have a lot of people who joined us recently. Do we want to update them on where we are and what form we're looking at? Kendra?
Sure.
Sure.
So we are, those who just joined in the last maybe 10, 15 minutes even, we finished up section 3 on the timing and procedures. And now we are looking at minor fouls. If you have your rules reference sheet handy to pull up, we're going to go through minor and major here in a bit. And then also we're looking at the minor foul penalty administration, that activity sheet that has some good reference on it as well. But we'll finish up minor fouls here and then goal circle and then get into majors here in a bit. I think these slides are animated coming up, Joe, so I'll kind of run through them a couple times as you speak through them.
Right, so this is an animated slide. The D1 is the defender, yellow is the ball, A1 is the attacker. This is an empty stick check by the defense. So defense does an empty stick check on the attacker. So the positions we talked about, you draw a line the shortest way to the 12 meter, that's where the ball goes. The attacker gets the ball. Now remember, the defender was in front of her when she committed the empty stick check. So when you position her, she'll be in front of her again. And as mentioned, you tell everybody this is indirect. She may run or pass, she cannot shoot. And then you have a whistle start because it's inside the CSA. Next. Okay, now if the attack fouls and it's above the goal line extended inside the CSA, the free position goes to the defender. So remember, the ball is coming out now because the attack did the minor foul. Now, if it's the free position goes to the defender at the spot of the foul, but it has to be at least 8 meters away from the goal circle. So again, we're above the goal line extended, we're in the arc or the fan, and they have to be at least 8 meters away. The offender, like before, goes 4 meters away in the direction from which he approached, and everybody else has to be 4 meters away. And you saw down the bottom left, because it's in the CSA, it's also a whistle start. So again, in the CSA above the goal line extended, just have to be 8 meters away or more. If the foul occurs between 8 and the 12, it occurs, you set it up wherever it occurred. You don't have to push it out any further or whatever. Next. Okay, so now this animation, this is an empty stick check by the attack. Okay, so we did before the empty stick check by defense. We're inside the CSA above the goal line extended, and you see the ball, the defender. So attack commits the foul, so the ball is coming out. Next slide. So we move the defender to the 8 because she was inside the 8. You move her so she starts at least 8 meters out. You put the attack wherever she was, 4 meters away. And because again, it's in the CSA, it is whistle start. You don't have to announce direct, but it is a whistle start because again, inside the CSA. Next. Now, for minor fouls below the goal line extended in the CSA, the free position goes to the non-offending player on the nearest dot. So no matter where it occurs, if it's in the CSA, below the goal line extended, it goes to the dot, the nearest dot. You have 2 choices. Again, the offender 4 meters away in the direction from which he approached, everybody else 4 meters away. And because it's in the CSA, whistle start. Slide. So let's do an example. Minor foul inside the CSA, below the goal line extended. So O covers, so X is going to get the ball. The yellow, and so we position X on the dot, and wherever O, the direction that O was, you just put her 4 meters away from the dot in that direction. Again, still in the CSA, even though it's below the goal line extended, and it's a whistle start. Moving on. Goalie. Okay, so goal circle fouls. It's a little different. You have to focus on goal circle, but let's go. So field players, they cannot run through the goal circle. It's at the youth level, the only person in the goal circle at all is the goalie. Field players during play cannot run through the goal circle. They can only reach into the goal circle if they're trying to block a shot, but they can't be grounded in the goal circle. And again, as it says here, only one player, either the goalkeeper or her deputy, is permitted in the goal circle at any time. The goalkeeper cannot carry the ball back into the goal circle. All right, she can throw it in and then go get it, but she can't carry it back in. Now, the second one is a rule change this year. Okay, previously, the moment a goalie grounded herself outside the goal circle, she had to keep going. This year, brand new rule, and we're going to see in a couple of slides, is as long as the goal circle, as long as the goalie keeps 1 foot grounded in the goal circle, she can reach out with the other foot, scoop up the ball, and bring it back in, or any way she gets it back in. But unlike before, where the moment she stepped over the line, she was out. Now, as long as her back foot is grounded, she can stay in. So that's an important change and not what's on the slides or in the rules. And that just came out. The goalkeeper also has to clear the ball from the goal circle within 10 seconds, and that's where you usually see the referee counting off the 10 seconds. Talking again a little bit about the deputy, no deputy at the youth level, but the deputy can enter the goal circle to prevent a rolling ball from crossing line if the goalie's not in the circle. And you can only enter the goal circle when your team is in possession of the ball. The other team has the ball and the goalie runs out for some reason. A defender cannot simply run into the goal because your team does not have the ball. Next slide.
Just a quick reiteration here. So no deputy at all at the youth level, but then also some of you know from playing the high school game where you can reach your stick in to block a shot, but at the youth level, you can't even do that. I mean, there is no stick at all whatsoever inside that goal circle. Okay, so just to reiterate that, and we have to teach at the high school level and then kind of just bring in the kind of technicalities of the youth, because you're going to see it on your test as you move through different levels of the game. You're going to see and be able and need to call those different levels of the rules. So we always teach at the high school level, at the game level, if you will, and then we add in those technicalities for youth. So just kind of make a note of some of these specifics as we go through, and we'll hit kind of youth as a group on day 3.
But again, to reiterate Kendra's point, since you're mostly going to be youth, you've got to think about the cylinder as sort of being the goalies. Nobody can reach in, go in, step in, whatever. It is strictly the goalies at the youth level. Okay, so goalkeeper play. This was the rule that changed in previous years. The moment the girl in the left slide, the left picture, stepped out, she had to keep going. All right. But now, as long as that back foot remains grounded, she can scoop the ball and step back. That is a new rule. Again, be alert to it this year. And again, as also mentioned, once the goalie is out of the goal circle, she can't reach into the goal circle to regain the ball. She must be wholly inside the circle before she can play the ball. So you'll see goalies throw the ball at the back of the goal into the net and then run in and pick it up.
And really,
Okay.
if she's outside the goal circle, she's a field player, and that's why this part of the rule does exist.
And the 10-second count, the goalie or her deputy has 10 seconds to clear the ball. Now she can throw it out or she can carry it out, or at the high school level, she can drop the ball behind somewhere in the circle, run out, and a field player may run through and pick the ball up. Only at the high school level. And you'll sometimes see it if they have trouble clearing. So offensive goal circle fouls. So the goal circle, as we discussed, is a cylinder from the ground to the sky. An attack player cannot step into the goal circle anytime. And even if they touch the line, that's stepping in. The line is the goalies. And while at the high school level, not at the youth level, while that attack player may follow through with her cross over the goal circle on a shot, her feet must not touch the line. So she can't be grounded, but she can reach over in the same way the defender can't be grounded, but can reach in to try and block the shot. Again, at the youth level, nobody goes in. Stick or body or feet. Slide. So penalty administration. So if the attack commits the foul, goal circle foul, for example, running into the circle, the free position goes to the goalie or a deputy in the goal circle. The offender is placed 4 meters behind. Everybody else is 4 meters away. And and you have a whistle start because this is in the CSA. Now it says if the ball is within the goal circle, the goalie is outside the goal circle when it occurs. The closest defensive player enters the goal circle to take the free position. You won't see this very often, but it could happen. Goal circle foul by the defense, meaning somebody on the defensive side ran through the circle, or the goalie did something wrong. Then the offender is 4 meters behind the free position. Everybody else is 4 meters away, and the goalie remains at the spot of the foul, or partially, or if within, or partially within the goal circle, remains inside the goal circle. So again, free position awarded at the closest dot for a goal circle foul by defense. Goalie, offender, except the goalie 4 meters behind. Next. Any questions, anybody? This is sort of an arcane kind of area, but you will see it. And last but not least, let's have fun. Any questions about the goal circles? This is something that a lot of people do not understand. So it is something just be alert to. And once you get the basics down, and there are really 3 or 4 basic concepts, it's not that hard, but a lot of people don't know necessarily, goalies don't always know where they've been or, where their feet are. The rule change will make it a little easier this year, particularly on the younger goalies.
Joe, quick question.
Sure.
As far as the attack entering the crease area, if it happens after a shot, okay, so I get that once the ball crosses the goal line, it's then a dead ball, and the attacker could enter the crease. How close does that come?
No, that's a really good question, because that is an issue, and the players here will tell you. First off, there's no circle. I mean, there's no crease. It's a circle. Boys, I think, have a crease. We got a circle. But when somebody takes a shot, the shot does not end till they come to stop. So if they shoot, the ball goes in the goal, but they continue into the circle, that is a goal circle violation by offense, regardless of, how much time elapsed between them shooting, the ball going in the goal, and them stepping over the line. So it is very important to watch after a goal to see what happens to the offensive player who shot, because that counts. And I'm sure players who are on this call who may have had it happen to themselves, that they make a terrific shot, but their momentum carries them into the goal circle, then no goal.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Good question. Anybody else?
Okay.
Any other?
Okay, so we're gonna do a little quizzy, see how you did. We're gonna put you in breakout rooms. What I need you to do is I need you to pull out or pull up. If you printed it, great. If not, you can just pull it up. It should be the That Goalie quiz. Now keep in mind, there might be a question technicality on that one rule change that's coming up in 2022. I will not say yes or no, but keep that in mind. That's the one minor point for next year's update. But if you'll pull up That Goalie quiz, there's, I think, 10 questions. All it asks you is, does the goalie say in or out? Okay, based on the scenario. We're going to put you into breakout groups, and Joe and Linda and I will kind of pop in and out of those, but we really want you to kind of just unmute yourself, get comfortable. I mean, it's just, a little exercise we're going to do, and see how well you do in a group, and then we'll come back in maybe 10 minutes and check it, and then we'll take a break. Okay, is everybody ready? Everybody have it pulled up? That Goalie quiz, and we'll go over the answers again in about 10 minutes. I'm going to put you in breakout groups just randomly, and Joe, Lynn, and I will pop in and out and check on you. Questions?
Gosh, I hope I know the answers to these, Kendra. We'll
I
find
hope
out.
you do too. It's a quiz really for you and Linda too. Okay, give me just a moment, guys, and we'll break. Okay, so let's take a look at the answers for your That Goalie quiz. So number 1, does that goalie stay in or out? Just chime in. Unmute yourself. You guys need to get comfortable. I'm telling you, unmute. Get comfy. Welcome. You're gonna be working with these people. These are like your classmates. It's like you're at school. This is your job. I'm gonna call on you, so you better get ready. Macy, what's number 1? What do you think? If you get it wrong, it doesn't matter, guys. Okay, this is where we're supposed to talk about it. So number 1, Macy, what you think?
I got in.
Okay, anyone else? Do we agree or disagree? Let's debate it.
Out.
Haley says yes. Somebody else said out. Okay, so the scenario is, so she's come out of her goal circle. She's in the 8. She challenges an attacker. Shots taken, bounces past the goalie. The defender gets called for an illegal deputy, but free position is worded at the center. Okay, now, so if the ball is rolling towards the goal, then there is no foul. And so the goalie stays out. That's the technicality on that one. That one's a little bit challenging because of the deputy situation. And again, a lot of you at the youth level starting out, you won't really see that come into play because it's not even allowed. But technically she stays out because if the ball's rolling towards the goal, then no foul. Questions? Number 2, in or out? Anyone? Don't be shy. Ben, what'd you
This
say?
is one where it's not a foul this year. That's the challenge.
Okay, yes, I thought there would probably be one on there. So she stays in. Okay, but the technical difference coming for 2022 that Joe discussed earlier with regards to it doesn't have to be the both feet. Okay, but both feet must be entirely over the line to be out of the goal circle. Okay, so knowing that rule change is coming, the answer to this is in. Very good. Number 3, in or out? Ed, in, very good. In is correct for number 3. Number 4, Allie.
I said in.
Okay, Claire, what do you have for number 4?
I said out.
Ooh, a debate. Fabulous. Okay, so let's look at it. So number 4, the attack is fouled outside the 8, but within the CSA. Okay, so then that kind of tells you some positioning. And the play is blown dead. The official sets up free position at the spot of the foul, clears the penalty lane. Goalie
The
is
rule
out.
change, sorry, there's a rule change, so it would be on the 12. If it's between the 8 and 12, we're not setting it up in
This
between.
is true. This just changed as well. Goalie is out of her goal circle in the 8, but not in the penalty lane. Does she go in or out? Okay, so the goalie, was she in the penalty lane? What does it say? Was she in the penalty lane?
She was not.
No, she was not in the penalty lane. So if she was not in the penalty lane and she's treated like a field player, does she have to move at all? Only if you're in the penalty lane do you need to move by direction of the official, correct? So when she's out of the goal circle, she's considered a field player. And so only the penalty lane is cleared and therefore the goalie stays where she is. So number 4, she stays out. Do we understand that one? Does that one make sense? These game time scenarios, this is a really tricky quiz. The goalie is probably, I think, one of the hardest kind of group of rules to really understand because there's so many technicalities around it. So this quiz should have been challenging for you. Like we hope it's a challenge because you can learn from these different scenarios because they're going to happen. And some of the ones listed won't happen, but the ones that you see in your game aren't even on the sheet, right? So that's always, I mean, even in the years and years that, you know, we've been doing the game, those always come up that you haven't seen the scenario before or what have you. Number 5, in or out?
In.
Nora.
I said out because, wait, hold on. Because she checked her, wait, no. Yeah, an illegal check.
Correct. Okay, so the goalie does stay out because did the goalie commit the foul in this case? Calls the goalie for an illegal check. Yes. So if the goalie commits the foul, the goalie is penalized. And so she is out. Very good. Number 6, in or out? Anyone?
I said out because when the goalie stepped out of the goal circle, she became a field player.
Yes. And again, let's say, they are both in the 8 meter. So obstruction, she's in free space to goal. She's a field player. Yes. Goalie stays out. Number 6. Very good. Number 7, in or out?
In.
Out.
Ooh, another debate. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so number 7, goalie is in the goal circle when attack shoots. It misses, goes out of bounds behind. No players are back there. So the official tells the goalie to get the ball. And then where does she go? Okay, so let's think about for number 7, was she out of the goal circle when the ball went out of bounds? No. So why would we want her to stay out and bring it in only 2 meters from the boundary? Does that really seem fair? No, right? She was already in the goal circle, so why not just let her stay in the goal circle? So for number 7, the answer is in. Now, however, if the goalie was out of the goal circle because she was also one of the ones chasing after the boundary ball and she's already out and she ends up being closest, where are we going to put her? Does she go back to her goal circle in that case? No, she would only come in 2 meters like any other player getting the boundary ball in possession, right? Okay, good. Number 8, is she in or out?
I said out.
Anyone else?
I said in.
Anyone else? Okay, well, we got 1 and 1. So goalie's out of her circle when the whistle is blown for a defensive foul, free position set up on the hashes, and the arc is to be cleared. Okay, so think about what we discussed a few examples ago. Did the goalie commit the foul? So if she didn't commit the foul, are we going to penalize her for it? No. Intuitively, make it make sense to you, right? If she didn't actually commit the foul, then why would we make her move 4 meters behind or away or something like that, right? So for number 8, she's going to be in. The arc is
Okay, I got a
cleared.
Quick question about that.
Uh-huh.
But you would be giving the defense the advantage because the goalie was out of the goal. You've got an open goal, and the defense commits a penalty or a foul.
Mhm.
It does give them the advantage of getting the goalie back into the goal. So it would they would get the defense, even though the goalie herself didn't commit the penalty or the foul, it would give the defensive an advantage.
It's true, really, because the goalie gets to go back in and the defender is either going to go behind or away or something like that, right? I think is what you're saying. So in a way,
Yes.
it does kind of give that defensive end the advantage of the play. However, that's also kind of why the goalie fouls are grouped as their own set of fouls, because they kind of have those nuances to where we have to, make a decision on, does the goalie do this or that? But I mean, you're right. I mean, that's a good point to bring up. But in discussion of this one, the 8 meters cleared, the goalie can return to the goal circle. So the answer for this one would be in, as long as she did not commit the foul. So it doesn't really say in the example as specifically as the one before, but if she didn't commit the foul, she would still go in. But good point, Ed.
Gotcha,
Okay,
thank
number
you.
9. Number 9, in or out, deputy one. Joe, did y'all talk about this one?
We did.
What'd y'all come up with?
Let's see, 9.
Out.
She should be out.
Right.
Okay, number 9 is out. The deputy took the place of the goalie.
Oh,
So the
right,
goalie-
yes. We said this was a really bad one.
Yeah. Deputies are always tricky anyway, and they
But-
don't
but-
happen very often, so it's hard to know where to put them.
But the idea is, if there is if the goalie being out and somebody races in to play the position illegally, this would have been an open goal. So there's no reason to sort of let the goalie go back in if there was clearly a penalty that would have resulted in an open goal. I mean, the penalty would have, the penalty of, I guess, obstructive would have been an open goal.
Mhm. So 9 is out, and then let's do 10. Someone chime in, number 10, in or out?
I said out.
Correct, out is correct. So the goalie is going to be set 4 meters away for that free position in the direction from which she came. Okay, so goalie is out, number 10. There's quite a few more to go through, so I'm going to give you the answers so you can review them, and then we'll take a little break and come back and start major fouls. Okay, so let's kind of jot these down as you go. Number 11, goalie should be out. 12, out. 13, in. 14, 15, out. 16, 17, in. 18, 19, out. 20, in. 21, out. So several of those go back to just more examples of, was the goalie involved in the play directly? Did she or did she not commit the foul? You know, just a few more examples of what we kind of already went over, but they're good definitely to read over. And I will tell you, do read them. You know, they could come up on the rules test, which we'll take together on Tuesday. They could come up, you know, in your other training video that you have to take on USA Lacrosse. So do go back and review them. We're a little long for our first break, so let's go ahead and take 5 minutes. Are we good with 5 minutes? We'll come back. Like I said, we'll hit major fouls and at least begin two-person positioning. It's not as long of one as the major fouls. So about 8:38, we'll see you back here. You can mute and video off for 5 minutes. See you soon. Okay, so in this section, we'll talk about major fouls, the slow whistle, which is also the yellow flag situation, and we use it at a specific time. And then we'll look at misconduct, which are your cardable fouls, and then offsides and how you administer that, because goal circles were grouped with minor fouls, even though they're their own set of fouls, but we kind of penalize them like a minor. And then offsides, even though it's its own set of fouls, we penalize it like a major. So that's why they're kind of grouped with the two sections here. So major fouls, again, your rule reference sheet you can have handy. So we've got these 4 groups that we just described. We want to make sure that we're looking at the safety or threatening the spirit of the game for this section. So we had misplays on the ball, procedural errors and such like that with minor fouls, but in major fouls, again, if you don't know the name of the foul, when you're calling these for the first few games or your first season, you don't know the mechanic for it. I don't want you to stress about that. I want you to think about 2 buckets. Is it a major or minor? So you can think of that as, does it cause a safety concern, or is it a misplay on the ball? And is it who's getting advantage? Okay, so that's how you can determine who gets it and in what way do they get it. Do they go 4 away or 4 behind? Okay, so fouls against the attacking player. These are some of the things that you might see, and they're grouped as fouls happening with the cross itself, and then also fouls happening with the body. But these are fouls that are happening to the attack player. So what you may see with the cross is dangerous check to the head, cross coming in and through the sphere. The sphere, remember, is that kind of imaginary bubble around the head and neck. The cross check or illegal contact, a slash, dangerous contact. Those 3 that have the yellow card next to them are automatic yellow cards. So if you make those calls, it's an automatic card. And then you also, there's a little bit different administration we'll go over when we get to that section here in a minute. Fouls that occur with the body also happening on the attack player, you might see a block, shooting space, or obstruction to free space. We use both of those terms. 3-second violation, and then any kind of hold or push. Now, this is just the first slide, so some of these will overlap, certainly, you'll see when we go through the other ones. But again, it should ring a bell to you that all of these things could be a dangerous situation. It could hurt a player, it could injure a player, it could definitely, it's definitely potentially having body contact or stick to body contact. Okay, that's what I want you to think of with the major foul. So there's your rule reference sheet. We don't have our rule books yet, so you have at least the reference sheet right now. So checking through the sphere, this is kind of what it looks like. If you see the player with the white cross, you'll see how close it is to her head. So the sphere, in kind of general terms, I mean, it is a measurement, but how we would show you in the classroom is it kind of goes from your shoulders and around the head. Okay, so if you can see where that white cross is, it definitely is inside that imaginary space. Again, the defensive player cannot reach into or through the sphere or hold her cross and just hang it out in front of her face. Okay, and also the throat and neck area, same. She can't poke it, she can't wave it. It's dangerous, she needs to get it out of there. It's a call, it's a whistle. Cross check, so using the shaft of the stick to hit, push, or displace. By displace, what we mean is changing her direction. Okay, as the attacker is coming then she has a right to that space. So if the defender takes that space away from her, then it might displace her, take her off her path. Okay, now that does go both ways when we start talking about the defensive side of the ball, but nonetheless, right now, just on the attack, a cross check, shaft or the stick to hit, push, move the player. Illegal contact is kind of general terminology, but contact with the stick. So she drops the head of her stick. You'll see it here in this horizontal position. Coaches will often be telling their team to go 10 and 2 on the position, you know, like a clock, so that they won't get this call. And nonetheless, though, it can't be contacting the player, but the position itself will lend itself to usually further contact and stuff and such itself. So illegal contact, horizontal position, and then they might use it to extend into the body. Definitely, you can see this defender here extend out versus maybe both players, offense and defense, are playing. I mean, it doesn't mean they won't touch ever, but they might not be gaining advantage of one versus the other unless one of them actually extends their body or stick to do that displacement. That's the intent here. Holding, okay, they can't detain or hold a player using their stick or body. In this slide, you'll see she's really using her stick to kind of impede that player running down the field. Check to the head, here's a little card reference in the corner there. No player's cross may hit or cause an opponent's cross to hit the opponent's head, neck, and also throat would be considered here as well. Okay. Slash, same thing as far as it's a dangerous foul. Okay, so all these are dangerous for the majors. Slash defender out of position for a legal check. Oftentimes you'll see their hands drop like this one here together on the bottom of the stick. Maybe they just go to one hand, but they really just, like the word slash, what does it mean? You just kind of take a swing with no regard to anything else. So a reckless or dangerous swing of the cross. It does not have to hit her. It doesn't necessarily have to make contact. Like for the goalie, it doesn't have to hit the goalie, even though she has a helmet on or padding or anything like that. Contact is not necessary for this call. I mean, for this example here, thank goodness she has equipment on, because if she gets hit with that stick, but definitely any kind of contact is not necessary. Okay, if it's a dangerous, reckless swing, it's a slash, it's a card. Okay, so now let's look at fouls against the defensive player. So fouling with the cross could be dangerous follow through or dangerous propel. Both of those automatic yellow cards. Forcing through. Okay, illegal cradle. So these are the defense players causing the foul. Okay, I think the wording is a little bit, or I guess they're going through the defense. So forcing through is they're coming through the defense. Excuse me. Okay, foul with the body. So a charge, the attack can charge through the defense, illegal picks, and pushing. Okay, so let's look at some of these examples. So the defensive player in the top left here has her space, her position established. So the attacker can't come in and make her change direction. Okay, so we talked about the space issue on the previous slide there. Charge, defender has maintained their space, so they get the space. The attacker can't charge in. And then the offensive player went into her space in that last slide. So you kind of see where the progression may occur. Okay, so the player in any case, if they're in position, they own that space, and whether it's an attacker or a defender situation, then they are entitled to that space. So legal defensive position, you'll see the stick is not horizontal here. It's approximately a 10 and 2. She's maintaining her space. Both defenders are in legal defensive position. Player pulls her cross into her own sphere. Okay, so this is an illegal cradle. The reason this is illegal, if she's in her sphere, the defender cannot legally check her because that would be a foul on the other side of the ball. So you have no advantage should be gained in either play, right? Offense or defense. So illegal cradle would be on the offensive side. Foul signals and mechanics. Okay, let's take a pause here. Are we good with these couple slides? Okay, so the officials manual, I have some page numbers here. It might be off just a couple pages with the reprint, but you can search the foul signals and mechanics so you have an idea of what these are. They're also in your rule books, but since we don't have our rule book yet, this is just a slide to kind of get you referencing what some of those signals are for these major fouls. So let's look at how to set them up. So first, we're going to do setups in outside the critical scoring area. So outside the CSA would mean outside the 12-meter fan. So what we see here is movement A. Okay, so the attack has the ball. So you have attack 1, defense 1. There's a foul outside the critical scoring area. And so because it is a major foul, she's going to go behind. Okay, so A's movement is to the right down the field. Okay, that's the way that they're attacking. Because it was a major foul, you'll see the defensive player go directly behind, and it happened outside the CSA. Spot of the foul is the setup. See that again. Okay, foul outside the CSA, attack gets the ball, defense 4 meters behind. Okay, now we're outside the CSA still, but we're down close to inside the restraining line. So just a different part of the midfield. Okay, same setup though. But what you'll notice is this time the defender's kind of at an angle. Okay, now the reason for that is it's in relation to the goal. Okay, so if A1 is to go directly in and shoot, then you should see kind of a line that forms from D1 through A1 to the goal. Okay, so we down towards the goal area, we kind of relatively will set them up with the angle as it would be necessary to go to goal, versus earlier in the slide, she was way down the midfield, directly behind is fine. Okay. Setting up major fouls inside the CSA, but below the goal line extended, so behind the goal, and you've got the foul there. That's going to go to the closest dot. Okay, remember these are still 8 meters away from the goal circle. A1 gets the ball, D1 is behind. Now, it looks like she's really close to the boundary here, but there should be enough room, again, to get that angle for the goal to give her 4 meters behind. Setting up major fouls in the CSA above the GLE, but now we're inside the 8. Okay, so one thing we want to remember is that it can't be any closer to 8 meters from goal. So the markings that we talked about in class 1, that would be the hash marks. That tell us where 8 meters away is. Okay, so if she is outside the 8, but between 8 and 12, actually for this one, she's not inside the 8, then we're going to pull her out to the 12. This position is a relatively, well, there's different setup for another one. So we'll wait for that, but goes to the fan, defender is 4 behind. And then in this case, we would also clear the penalty lane. Okay, so there's the animation that came up, 4 meters to either side. So you can kind of think of those imaginary lines going towards the goal there. From the goal circle, it would come straight out. So that's the 2020 note that I was just about to mention. A defensive foul between the 8 and 12 will be administered on the 12. So that's relatively new as well. So it goes out to the 12, D1, 4 meters behind, whistle, start. Lane does not extend below the goal line extended. So that's in there in case there was players down in that area. You don't have to move them out of the penalty lane, so to speak, because they're not in it if they're below the goal line. Okay, so now we're inside the 8 meter arc. So here's where they would need to be at least 8 meters away. And that's where those hashes do tell us where 8 meters away is. And we're going to set them up to the closest hash to where the foul occurred. And the offender will go 4 meters behind. The other defenders are also 4 away, which means if they're on the 8, they go to the hash marks on either side. They have to be out of the whole penalty area, which I don't think, yeah, there it is. Okay, it comes up on the slide. So everyone is out of that yellow area. Defender 4 behind, whistle, start. So let's take a look at the penalty zone. Okay, this is the last few years that they've added the penalty zone, which is great actually. So it goes all the way down and through the dots. The CSA, however, goes all the way back to the end line, beyond the dots, all the way to the end line. Okay, so just a little bit bigger area for the critical scoring area versus the penalty zone. The penalty zone we only use when we're clearing for a foul situation. So all players in the penalty zone would clear it when we have the setup down there. Defensive players are entitled to the adjacent hash to the ball carrier. So if you remember from your geometry, adjacent means next to. So that defensive player can grab the hash next to if they choose on either side. Okay, let's look at a few slides here. So penalty zone clearing, all players must move outside the penalty zone. If the goalkeeper is anywhere in the zone, she may clear back into the goal circle if she did not foul. Okay, so good thing we already talked about some of those keeper examples. So what you'll see is you've got the setup is the red players A1, D1, and then you've got the other players that are inside the penalty zone. So before we actually allow A1 to take her penalty shot, we want to clear everyone else out, and it's directly out where they were. So A4 would pop straight up on that 8 meter. A2, D2 could pop out below. A3, D3 could pop out to the side. Okay, now it is free movement. Technically they could, once they get beyond that space, they could move around, but generally they would just pop out the quickest way possible so we could get the penalty going. Okay, so defensive player is allowed to take the hash mark closest to the ball carrier. So in this case, you'll see A2, D2, D3 is outside. D3, even though they're outside when the foul occurred, way up out of that involvement of the foul, we'll say it's free movement and she's allowed to take that hash mark. So she can come up, she can take that adjacent hash, and then D2, you'll see slid over to the other adjacent hash to where the ball is going to be at the center. Now, if we go back to where we started, you'll see that A2 and D2, A2 is actually closer to the ball. However, again, when we hit the animation, D2 has rights to that adjacent hash. Okay, so they can take it. Let's look at 3 seconds. So 3 seconds is a major foul. We'll get into here in a bit, but if 3 seconds is called, it's one of those fouls that's called inside the 8 meter. Then if it's called on a defender in the 8, the administration is set up and restarted at the spot of the ball when the foul is called. Okay, so over the last couple years, this has become a little bit different in some of the ways you'll see it, but if 3 seconds is called, D1 is hanging out inside the 8, not marking any defender. That's what that call means. A1 is out there with the ball. Okay, so where's the ball when the 3 seconds occurred? Well, it's out there with A1. So awkwardly enough, D1 will come all the way over and go behind the player with the ball. Okay, now it's still a whistle start because of where we're at on the field, because the foul occurred in the CSA, even though that player is not in the CSA. I think that is correct. Kind of, like I said, the last couple of years, this has changed a little and it's become kind of interesting when you have to pull that player all the way over there. Questions on that? Joe, Linda, anything to add there? That's kind of one of the unusual situations, even as an example, but anything to add there, guys?
Well, I think there's, I don't want to sort of be drinking from the fire hose, but 3 seconds is a tricky one. It really requires you, especially if you don't call it right away, to just keep in your head where everything was.
Mm-hmm. But if you can remember, spot of the ball when the foul is called, it's still a major, the player still goes behind. And so it's kind of one of the nuanced fouls of the group of majors, but this is a good example because this is kind of one of the stranger setups. Usually, or oftentimes, the player with the ball is also in that area. And so they end up being placed kind of close together like you would expect any other kind of foul to happen, but this was a good example. Okay, major fouls in the CSA by the defense. If the goalkeeper commits the foul, then the goalkeeper would go behind. Okay, so we talked about those examples earlier. If the goalkeeper is out of the goal circle, but does not commit the foul in the penalty zone and is in the penalty zone when it's to be cleared, then they can go back into the goal circle. So hopefully that makes sense because we hit those goal circle fouls earlier. All right, an attack foul in the 8 meter. So now attack has the ball and maybe they charge. Okay, so now you'll see the arrow, the ball's going out the other direction. So when the attack fouls inside the 8, we still cannot be any closer to the goal than 8 meters. So then that defender is going to then take possession and she's going to get it on the 8, and that attacker that committed the foul will still be behind because it was major foul, or really any foul in the 8, but we're in this major foul section here, okay? If the attack fouls in the critical scoring area, but below the goal line extended, then she will get possession, the defender there for the turnover at the dot. And then that other player will still go 4 behind. If you are in the CSA and outside the arc or the 8 meter, then you are at the spot of the foul, still going out, and that attacker would just be 4 meters behind, again, for that free position. So I hope you can see this is why major fouls have so much more to them, because you've got all the different locations on the field. You have the midfield area that's outside the CSA. You have inside the CSA between the 8 and 12. Then you have inside the CSA as far as inside the 8 meter. And then you have above and below the goal line extended. So all of these little technicalities come with these different setups. And that's why the section has a lot more meat to it and is quite a bit longer than the earlier ones. But here's a little review. So the defense fouls out there, technically just kind of the midfield area. And so then the attack gets the ball, she's 4 meters behind, done. What if the defense fouls here? She's inside the CSA, but still out of that 8 meter fan. Okay, so attack's gonna get the ball. At the 12, defense goes behind. Okay, so if the foul occurs between the 8 and 12, then it's set up at the 12. You pull them back to the 12. That changed, I think it was last year. And then on this one, you just have to remember also to clear the penalty lane, because technically that girl can take a shot from right there, because it's the critical scoring area. That's where we start to see the flag. That's where she gets to take her direct shot. If she chooses to shoot right there, she can. Okay, and then this other example, we're inside the 8 meter. We know by default she has to come at least 8 meters away, so she's going to take the hash. And the defense will go behind. And then because of the 8 meter, you also clear the penalty zone for everyone else. Okay, now we're below the goal line extended. If you remember the highlighted areas that we've discussed, she's still inside the critical scoring area. There's that highlighted or outlined. And so because she's in the CSA, ball goes to the dot. Okay, and then you'll see that defensive players put at the angle behind relative to if that attacker was going to go in and shoot the ball. Any questions? That's a lot. Questions on this section? That was a lot. Okay, and it's a lot to kind of virtually visualize rather than being, you know, on the field, but you get that field work later. But any questions on that? You can kind of group them again with these fouls. You're in the midfield, you're inside, outside the CSA, you're inside the 8. Okay, there's kind of 3 chunks. And then below the goal line, If you're inside the CSA, you're at the dot. And if you're outside the CSA, it's just like a midfield, really. Okay, so it's kind of three areas plus the dot. Any questions? Major fouls, always, you're thinking of safety, you're thinking of danger, those kind of things, body contact, stick contact. And then that's why she goes behind rather than earlier when she was just away. Okay, to kind of group them again into some general terms. Okay, hang on tight, guys. We've got about 15 minutes left. We're going to get into some penalty flag situations here, and then we'll see what we need to finish up for next class. Okay, I'll pause this about 5 minutes early so we can chit chat about, again, what's coming and take care of any administrative items. Okay, now let's get through scoring plays. The scoring play happens with the slow whistle, and that's when you see the flag. So rule 11, I'm just going to read it to you, so I won't leave out any details. So slow whistle, we also refer to as a held whistle, okay, because we show our penalty flag. That's why we use it. It goes into effect when the attack player is in the CSA and is on a scoring play. Okay, so we'll define a scoring play here in a second. Okay, but that happens when she's fouled by a defensive player committing a major foul, but still retains possession of the ball. So essentially the scoring play, we don't want to take away her momentum if she's able to go in and score. So if a player's coming down the field, she enters the CSA, she gets pushed by a defensive player, but maintains the ball and is able to go on and shoot, we might raise our flag to see the foul, but we don't want to take away her momentum. If she can score, great, let her score, you know? So that's what the flag is for. Or when an attack player is in the CSA on a scoring play and major foul is committed against the attack teammate without a ball, so it could be on ball, it could be off ball, is essentially what this is saying. We're going to raise our yellow flag. Okay, so here's your criteria. Held whistle shows an advantage, so we show our flag. We don't blow the whistle, we just show the flag. It has to happen in the CSA. So this highlighted area here, which goes again, it doesn't go very far on this visual, but remember it's below the dots. It keeps going beyond the dots. The player must be on a scoring play, and it has to be a major foul committed by the defense. Okay, so those are your 4 criteria. So let's define a scoring play. So it is the continuous effort. So again, we don't want to take away her momentum by the attacking team within the CSA as she tries to move the ball towards the goal and actually take her shot. So we don't want to penalize her for getting fouled if she's able to go on and do the shot and score on goal. So foul on the CSA above the goal line extended, but outside the 8-meter arc. Here's your little animation. So there's your player. She's outside the 8. She's coming down with the ball. In the CSA, yep. Starting her scoring play, yep. There comes the defender, boom. She cross-checks that defensive player. Our flag goes up as the official. We're just gonna see what happens with this player with the ball. Okay, I'm not sure if the animation, it's a little blurry on my end. So let's see if this video clip will play for you. Oh, good. She gets checked right there. Flag goes up. Did you see it? Flag went up and then it was quick. Let's see that play again. Okay, I'm about to start it. Number 7 has the ball at the right part of your screen. She's in the CSA. She's going towards goal and she gets pushed. The official had her flag up, or his flag up, and then blew the whistle to start setting up the play. Okay, let's do a little review. So slow whistle allows the attack to continue to, quote, go to goal. What do you think? True or false? Anybody? Anybody? I can't see you because I'm on screen share. So
True.
someone check. Yes, true. The foul against the attacking player must be a major foul. True or false?
True.
Whoop, whoop, true. If the movement to the goal stops, the foul is whistled. We didn't really talk about this, but what do you think?
True.
Yes, because let's think about that. If we have our flag up, she's going to goal and she's able to continue through maybe being pushed. Great, let her shoot, see what happens. If, however, our flag goes up, she's pushed and she drops the ball and doesn't get the opportunity, do we still want to give her the opportunity? Did she still get fouled? Yeah. So we would whistle and then set it up instead. Very good. Okay, any questions on slow whistle? Again, slow whistle, held whistle means you're using your flag, which means you're in the CSA on a major foul by defense.
There's one foul critically where there is no slow whistle. And that
Go
would
ahead.
be, anybody know? That if a foul occurs, you always blow the whistle immediately.
Check to the head.
Well, theoretically, even if they check her to the head, but if she continues to play and shoots, you could still have the slow whistle. So, but good idea, cardable fence, you'd think, yeah. But there's one in particular, which is immediate danger. You'd say you need to stop play. We don't slow whistle it.
dangerous shot.
Dangerous shot, no, or I heard slash. Again, a cardable foul, but even with the slash, you know, say they swing at somebody as they're going by and they miss them entirely, we call that a slash, but they still are on a scoring play. And you
We
could
would
card,
still have our flag up. Yep. We would still administer that card, just we would let them continue to goal. But what if you don't want to get hit with the ball? What is that foul?
what's a foul that somebody would get hit with the ball if something, you know, if the player shot?
Dangerous shot.
I think
Nope. I think
y'all's
you know what-
thinking is correct. It's just the verbiage.
So,
Because that's come up twice. I think they're there.
yeah, I think you have the idea. Dangerous shot is the shot that shot at the goalie, but what if there's a field player out there?
Shooting space.
Yes, yes, good answer.
Space.
So
Or
if,
obstruction, you might hear that too.
yeah, shooting space or obstruction to free space to goal or free space to goal, if that occurs, if you see that, immediate whistle, no flag.
Good. Any other questions here or comments? Okay, let's talk about cards for this last little bit here. So we've got, there's 5 cards that are fouls, and then unsportsmanlike, we can also use a card for misconduct rather, as far as language, behavior, something like that. But the 5 fouls, as far as you might see being played, would be check to the head, slash, dangerous propel, dangerous follow through, and then dangerous contact was added a year or 2 ago. Defensive player. Now, a dangerous propel is when the ball is propelled in a dangerous manner towards a player. Doesn't have to hit anyone. Dangerous follow through is when the stick is used to hit or come in close dangerous contact with the player. Okay, both of those, and even the slash doesn't have to hit someone, right? But the propel is with the ball, the follow through is with the cross. And then the unsportsmanlike conduct, like I said, kind of the sportsmanship part of it, misconduct, verbal or physical behavior. So we want to uphold the spirit of the game. We want to keep it safe, fair, and fun. Okay, so behavior comes along with that. Okay, behavior in play that's not in compliance with the spirit and the rules of the game. We can say misconduct would be our official's tool, and a yellow card would be how we can administer that. Okay, here's a few examples. Player must not conduct themselves in a rough, dangerous, or unsportsmanlike manner. So you could give a yellow, maybe a red. Player must not deliberately endanger the safety of an opposing player. No baiting, taunting, language, embarrassing, ridiculing, demeaning, anything like that. I mean, we want to, respect all those in the game. The non-playing team, your team bench, coaches coaching outside the coaching area, improper use of electronic equipment, those could also be considered misconduct, which would also be a yellow card. Any behavior essentially in which the official's opinion amounts to misconduct could be repeated or persistent major fouls. That's actually written in the rule book as such. If we call, there's not a number, but I'm going to toss out a number. Let's say in a row, we had 3 to 4 major fouls, just boom, boom, boom. Okay, well, the whistle that we blow should be a warning to all players or an alert to all players that that behavior is legal. So they need to be able to adjust to that, clean it up. And if it keeps happening, if it's persistent, then we can escalate that major foul to a cardable foul. Illegal re-entry of a suspended or ejected player. So a suspended player would be a player on a yellow card, an ejected player would be a player on a red card. So if a player goes in too early, then she will serve the entire 2-minute penalty time for that original yellow, or 4 minutes for the red, and then she will come back and do another 2 minutes as well to make sure that she's penalized again, essentially, if she doesn't do her first full time out. Okay, we can issue a yellow or a red. I mean, in my entire officiating career of 16, 18 years, I've done 1 red card. So those red ones are for flagrant, I mean, something outside the spirit of the game, intentional towards a player type situation. I mean, I would say probably your yellow card will be the card that you will need and will suffice, but it should be a warning to all players. Okay, not just the one getting the card, but it should be a warning to all players that that type of behavior is not legal. Okay, goalie suspensions and ejections. When there is a second dress goalkeeper, so this is a card on the goalie. So the goalie must leave the game and enter the penalty area for 2 minutes for a yellow or 4 minutes for a red. The coach then selects a field player who also serves the 2 or 4 minutes in the penalty area. Okay, now, and then the team will play short for either the 2 or 4 minute penalty if it's a yellow versus red. And the second dress goalie must take the original goalkeeper's place. Okay, so what's happening is, as long as there's someone on the sideline that's dressed and ready to go, then if the goalie commits a cardable foul, the goalie comes out. The second dressed goalkeeper will go in. However, somebody still has to be penalized for the yellow card and play short. The team will play short. So that's where the coach will take a field player also out to play short as far as the number of players on the field. There's a lot going on in that one. Okay, when there is not a second goalkeeper, which is pretty standard for a lot of the teams, especially at the youth level, but also at the youth level, probably not going to see a goalie commit a yellow card foul, probably not. They're just not quite skilled. They're still learning a lot. So when there's only one dressed goalkeeper, and meaning that goalie is in the goal circle, then she must leave the game area for 2 or 4 minutes. The coach selects a field player who also serves 2 or 4 minutes in the penalty area, and the team will play short, and a field player may become the substitute goalie and put on equipment. Okay, we would allow time for that if there wasn't one dressed. But it needs to be quick. I mean, they need to be moving and grooving, so. Okay. Penalty time, so you've kind of seen the pattern here. Yellow card is 2 minutes out in the penalty area. We like for them to kneel in that penalty area so we can tell the difference as officials on who's about to sub into the game and who's actually on a card penalty, because there's a lot going on right in front of that table on the sideline. The end of the penalty, the player can return to the field, or she may be replaced by a substitute, but that player has to sit out of the game. The team plays short for 2 minutes. And it's clock time 2 minutes. Red card, again, you probably won't have these come up anytime soon, but 4 minutes is the time. Again, they sit or kneel in the penalty area. The player must return to the team's bench. A yellow card versus a red card is that the red card, she's actually ejected. She cannot come back onto the field at all and play. Okay, she can't come to the game. She may be replaced by a sub after that 4 minutes, but that player herself cannot come into the game. And she's also excluded from the next game her team plays. And then she must serve her next game based on her state association. I think in our area, they can be there. They just can't be dressed as a player. So we need to know that they're not going to go on the field, essentially. Linda, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that's like on the league side. But if for instance, you're in a game with a red card, you need to make sure that you would report it to Linda so she knows to follow up with the teams and make sure that they are excluding that player from playing in the next game, because she does the game assignments, so she'd be able to track down also what officials would be on the next game to make sure that they would know that this player had been carded in the previous game. Red card only. Coach misconduct, the head coach is responsible for the actions of all persons connected with his or her team. So that means the coaches and players on the bench. It means the fans in the stadium. It means their own behavior. Any card given to the coach will count towards the team's total card count. And we'll get to total card count here in a moment. When you give a card procedurally, first you call timeout. You see the official in that picture there with the big X with her hands. So that's our timeout. We want to make sure that the table can see it, the other players, the coaches, everything. So we know we're stopping the game. You call the player over to you, turn and face the score table, and you show your card, whether it's could be green, yellow, or red. Procedures the same as far as that part goes. But then you give the signal for what it is, slash, check to the head, or so on, and you make sure your partner is aware of what card it is, who's getting the card, who's going to take that penalty time on the sideline. Okay, depending on the type of game you have, as far as like, you know, if it's someone at the youth level or a new timer that you had to kind of check in with, you want to make sure that they are counting 2 minutes. Might want to check in with the table, make sure they are good to go. Okay, let's see this card situation on this clip here. Flag went up, timeout. She calls the player over, faces the table, shows her signal. Okay, now that happened pretty quickly, so we're going to watch it again. So the ball starts over in the left side of your bottom left, middle of your screen. And then you'll see the pass, and then the player gets just jacked at the goal circle. If you watch the official in the foreground here, you'll see the official quickly, flag went up with the foul because it's a scoring play, but then immediately knowing that that was a cardable offense and the player lost the ball, scoring play ended, then she called timeout and issued the card. Boom, scoring play ended. Flag was up, but now she calls timeout, goes ahead and addresses the card. Now, it should be known that if she did not lose possession of the ball, but there was the scoring play flag, and let's say she shoots and scores, then the official would call the goal and then call timeout and administer the card. Okay, the card doesn't go away just because we paused on maybe giving it with the scoring play. But in this example, she dropped the ball, so it ended the scoring play. So we went ahead and administered it right then, okay? Okay, just a few more slides here. So misconduct rulings are not easy when you have to confront a coach or something like that, even if it's confronting the coach about their fans, because the fans might be on the other side of the field where they didn't know everything was going on. So usually if it's something with the fans, we will tell the coach first and give them the opportunity to go and address that, because they may not know the behaviors that are happening over there. And then, you know, certainly you can always escalate that to a card if we feel like it's necessary. Do not be afraid to ask your partner for help, because when you're starting out, you will be paired with a more experienced official to kind of get some of that game management under your belt.
It is hard as a youth when you have to call issue a card to an adult. It's just really hard. And so you have to sort of get used to it, steel yourself to it, and also get your process down. When you're going to card somebody, you need to sort of step back and take a moment and don't rush this. The tendency is, I got to get all this out right away. No, the time is going, slower than you think. So when you call a card, really part of it is knowing the order of things you need to do and just taking a deep breath and following them carefully, and you'll be fine. But it is, when you get into the moment, it can be very daunting. And again, we've all faced it.
And one thing that's nice about a card is that you stop the clock. So you do have those few seconds to kind of think of the process. Okay, what do? I call the player over. I have to issue my card. I have to show it. I have to you know, you have those few seconds to kind of go through the process. Okay, last slide here, we'll review our misconduct. So the 5 mandatory cards, hopefully you're saying them with me. You've got to check to the head, dangerous propel, dangerous follow through, a slash, and dangerous contact. Those are the 5. Who is responsible for behavior on the bench? Someone chime in. Behavior on the bench, go. Who's responsible? Coach, good. How do you issue a card to a player on the field? Okay, if you just kind of think about the process, you're going to first stop the clock. So you tweet, show your timeout signal, beckon the player over, face the bench, show your card, show your mechanic, check in with your partners, set up what's going to happen, start the clock and the game again. Okay.
Yeah, the clock is stopped. Do not feel rushed. You need to sort of just get it right and then move on.
Good. All right, so I'm going to come back on the screen here. Offsides, they're kind of their own groups. We'll go ahead and save that for next time. But there's only a couple slides left in this part of our presentation, and then we'll be able to do 2-person positioning. It's not very long, like I said. We'll finish that up next time. We'll take the test. Be on the lookout. It's pretty late tonight, but probably tomorrow I will send your materials for day 3. So remember, we're going to meet on Tuesday, so just 2 days away. And I will include a copy of the test. So if you can print it, I do recommend it because we're going to go over the test. You can write on it, take your notes. We're going to take it together in groups. So you will have to talk to people on Tuesday. And then that'll be it for our classroom sessions. A few of you, we know you had game conflict and stuff, and we kind of offline talked to you about that. So we will have some directions coming up about those materials offline. Are there any questions? Anything for tonight? Joe, Linda, anything to add?
Nope. I mean, again, this seems like a lot of stuff, and it is. And remember, you are not going to spring forth as the greatest official on day 1. This is a craft. You're learning a skill, and by repetition and by doing it, you will get better at it. But do not be discouraged. I don't know if anybody watches Ted Lasso, but the happiest creature is the goldfish because it's got the 10-second memory. If something happens, you just have to, let it go and just move on to the next play. And you learn from everything you do, particularly the first couple years.
If anyone did not in the chat sign their name for attendance, I know a few of you jumped on after maybe we said that. If you could go ahead and do that in the chat to everyone. Linda's doing attendance for the session. And if there's no questions, look out for my email. Like I said, tomorrow, I'll tell you what would be nice to print. If any of you are missing any documents and didn't get session 1, session 2 information, or if I need to resend it, please let me know in time for next class. And then you should get session 3 stuff tomorrow. That's it for me. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.